On to the 2020 Chelsea School District Board of Education Candidates Forum. I'm Paul Schissler. I'm currently serving my 7th and final year on the Chelsea Area Chamber of Commerce Board. My wife Ann and I have lived here for 22 years. 3 of our children attended Chelsea schools. We've been Cub Scout parents, Boy Scout parents, marching band parents, soccer parents, show choir parents. We're both past presidents of the Rotary Club, and I think you get the idea. We love this town. So it is my privilege, therefore, to be here to guide us through this evening's events. First of all, I would like to thank the candidates for being willing to serve in this role on the Chelsea School Board. It is not a job for the faint of heart or the casual volunteer, but it is rather a job for skilled, thoughtful people who care about the Chelsea School District, the large, well-trained team that keeps it operating at such a high level, and our students, their families, and our community in general. I suggest that they serve out of devotion and concern and affection for our outstanding schools and the students who attend them. At $25 per meeting, and typically 2 meetings or more per month, nobody does this for the money. The board term is for 6 years. That's right, 6 years, twice a month minimum. That is a big commitment. My thanks also goes to those of you who took time from your day to log in and learn more about these 4 candidates who are competing for the 2 available board positions. I would also note that this forum is brought to you by the Chelsea Area Chamber of Commerce. I have Terrace Ahrens, Executive Director of the Chelsea Chamber, with me this evening to keep track of the time as each candidate speaks. On the tech side, Scott Wooster, CSD Director of Technology, is behind the scenes making all this work. So thank you, Scott. Scott's the little emblem of the Bulldogs down on the bottom of your screen. Now, speaking of tech issues, this forum will include auto-generated closed caption, which is sometimes not precisely in line with what was actually said. So please bear with us, as this is a computer-generated program. This event is also being recorded this evening and will later be available on chelseamish.com. Okay, I'll be asking the candidates a series of questions offered by the Chamber and from folks who sent their questions to Terrace over the last week or so. The hour goes by pretty quickly, so we'll get to as many as we can. One last comment, and then we'll get started. For those of you who may not be completely familiar with the role of the Board of Education members, I would refer you to the Chelsea School District website and follow the links to the board bylaws, agendas, and minutes to get an idea of what goes on in these meetings. Now let's get started. I'd like each of the candidates to introduce themselves when they answer the first question. Terrace will assist me with keeping the time, and you will see Terrace holding up cards. Where are your cards, Terrace? All right. He'll be holding up these cards to help you see the time going by. On a coin flip, we'll go in reverse alphabetical order of last names. So it'll be Eric, Mark, Tammy, and then Dana. Later, as we go through the questions, we'll be alternating who goes first. So Eric, we'll start with you. Please introduce yourself after I ask you this first question. Why have you decided to run for the Chelsea School Board of Education?
Well, thank you, Paul, and thanks to the Chamber of Commerce for hosting this. My name's Eric Wilkinson. I live out in Sylvan Township with my wife and 3 boys. I chose to run for the school board this year for a very simple reason. I wanted to help do my part to better this community that I love and better the opportunities that our children have for a great education. Education's been an important role in my life, and I recognize the role that it can play in building the foundation for our children's lives. I believe I have the skills and experience that can be put to good use on the board to address the challenges that we face today and to set the direction for our school district in the future. And with regards to challenges, this year's been a challenging year for everyone. This spring, when the lockdowns brought everything to a halt, my concern was about our most vulnerable students and how these disruptions were causing maybe them to fall further and further behind. I believe as one of the first actions is really how do we continue the work to get our schools back to full-time in-person instruction as quickly and as safely as possible so that we can work to recover the work or the disruptions that's been caused. Also, I've heard from a lot of parents and students how we may be falling short in meeting the needs of certain segments of our student population, in providing for their educational needs and providing a safe and welcoming environment. That's another area that I'd like to focus on. Overall, I'm looking for the opportunity to be your representative on the school board so we can continue to make Chelsea a great place for our children to receive an education.
Thank you, Eric. And Mark, same thing. Introduce yourself and answer that first question, please.
Good evening. Thank you, Paul, Terrace, and Scott for hosting and providing tech support. My name is Mark Vandeweg. My wife and I moved to Chelsea in 2014. We have a 4-year-old and a 6-year-old. And we've always had the desire to give back to our community. Last summer, I went through the scare of being diagnosed with cancer and really had to think about, might not get too many times to give back. And our kids are finally old enough. And this summer, seeing the students of the anti-racist Chelsea youth marching, found them to be very inspiring. I saw them one week, and then the next week they were out there, and they kept on coming back. And I know that in a town, our town of Chelsea, it's not an easy thing for them to do, to stand up for what they believe is right in regards to racial and social justice and equality. And then seeing the response of the community and seeing the police officers on the roof of the police station just really got my attention. And I decided that I could pair my desire to give back to the community along with my belief in racial and social justice and standing up for what's right by running for school board and being a voice and an advocate for all students, no matter what they look like, no matter who they love, no matter if they're an athlete or not, where they worship or they don't worship. I want them all to know that I'm ready to work on their behalf because they do matter. They are valued by me and by other members of the Chelsea community. I believe in loving your neighbor as yourself. And for me, the best way that neighbors have shown love to me is by helping with my kids. And I want to extend that love to the families of Chelsea and work on the behalf of their children so that they can continue to have the best facilities, the best teachers. The Chelsea education system was one of the reasons that we decided to move to Chelsea instead of another community in the Ann Arbor area.
Thank you, Mark. Tammy?
Sorry, I had to mute myself. First of all, thank you to the Chelsea Chamber for hosting the forum and for Scott for providing the Zoom link and access to everybody. I also want to thank all attendees for taking the time out of their busy lives to sign in and hear from all of us. First of all, my name is Tammy Lehmann. I am actually running for re-election for the Chelsea School Board. I am doing that to provide a fair and impartial voice for all community members and to continue to provide a quality education for all students. I also felt that it was important to finish my work on the bond committee. And through this committee, the community trusted the board with an $81 million bond. Over the next 10 to 15 years, the district will be making improvements throughout our buildings. These improvements will be in infrastructure and technology and transportation and creating secure access points and secure entry points in all of our buildings. It'll also make improvements in the classroom by creating flexible learning environments that will promote collaboration, critical thinking, creativity, and communication. We're also improving a campus that has been sitting dormant for years by bringing consortium classes and opportunities to the WSEC campus. The voters and community trusted me with the task on the bond committee, and I want to ensure that we do what we promised. Thank you.
Thanks, Tammy. Dana?
Well, again, thank you to all for being here and for having me. I really have a simple answer. I'm running for re-election for Chelsea School Board because I care about our schools. More importantly, I care about the people in our schools. School board allows me the opportunity to have an active role in which I can contribute to caring for the people that I care most about. I should mention that I wasn't looking to be on the board quite some time ago when people started asking me if it was something I would consider. And I thought about it as a stay-at-home mom. I chose to spend most of my time in the schools when my kids were young, and loved being there. Loved seeing the teachers in action, loved seeing the students in action. As my kids got older, there weren't as many opportunities for me to be in the schools, but I still cared greatly for the schools and those in them. So when the opportunity presented itself, I ran for election, and I was happy to be elected, and I would love to keep serving this wonderful school district that we are a part of. Thank you.
Thank you. The second question will start with Mark. What is the role of a school board of education member, and what strengths do you bring to enhance the current board? Unmute.
Yeah, I'm sorry. The role of a school board member is you're acting on behalf of the taxpayers of the community, but you're also trying to provide the best education for the students and best facilities for the students and the teachers. I want to bring to the board the strength of, I'm a good listener, and you need, my belief from where I work is we do open book management, where the people who are doing the work know what they need best to succeed. So I want to be in communication with the students and the teachers, because I think they're the ones who know best what they need to be successful. The students know what they need to feel safe. The students are going to also be dealing with the COVID situation for a while, and I strongly want to work for and advocate for the mental health of our young people. This year has been a tough year for them, and they're going to be dealing with the consequences of not having the socialization for a year, not having normal classwork for a year, potentially falling behind. And I want to work with, I'm looking forward to a diversity of opinions as well. I don't have any set agenda other than working on what's best for the kids, what's best for the students. And I welcome a diversity of opinions, and I like to find ways that we can work together, because, even if we do have differences, I know there are some common things we can work on to give the kids the best chance at being successful graduates of the school system, and also provide the teachers the resources they need to help prepare our students for life beyond their time in the school system here.
Thank you, Mark. Tammy?
Hi. The role of the school board. Well, there are many roles actually. Mainly it's to educate the students. It's to provide safety, protect their welfare. Little things like purchasing and disposing of school property. Kind of really important things I feel that the school board is involved in is hiring the superintendent, providing contracts, helping with negotiations, controlling expenditures and setting budgets, levying taxes, which actually help align with the budget. And then actually just kind of setting curriculum and courses that our students get to take. I feel I'm the best served for this role because I feel that I'm one of those people that's always in the community. I do a ton of different things. I'm very visible. I feel it's given the community members a lot of opportunity to approach me and talk to me about items that they're concerned with and voice their concerns. I've served with various different committees on the school board, including the treasurer, the vice president. I've been present in all of the buildings. I'm available if they need somebody to come in and, see an event or help with a math lab or reading lab. And I just feel like, my relationship in the community kind of leads to those strengths of being a school board member.
Thank you, Tammy. Dana?
Well, I could reiterate what everybody's saying, but I think getting the gist that the role of the school board has some specific capacities. I think along with working on the general mission or the big broad pictures of our school district, setting goals, measurable goals with our superintendent, designating and evaluating our superintendent, and like Tammy said, is a big one. We were fortunate, Tammy and I both, to be a part of hiring Dr. Julie Helber, and then reviewing the budget, approving recommended curriculum. We're not necessarily in charge of figuring out what the curriculum is, but we're definitely listening to the experts who are our teachers and staff and those task force in different committees that we listen to, and we ask questions and gather facts from community members and people within our schools so that we can approve different curriculums. We can adopt policies and help with salaries for staffing, and then work to determine facility needs and priorities. My strengths, I'll just go back to caring. That's my biggest strength. I care deeply for this school and the people within it. I want to be a great listener. I feel I am a wonderful listener. I have positivity, and I feel that we all have different strengths. And like Mark touched on, it's very important that we don't all have the same strengths. So who I am as a person and who I know in the community is just as important as all of these other individuals here. And that we each bring our frame of reference and our knowledge and experience along with those in our community that entrust us is very important.
Thank you, Dana. And Eric.
Yeah, it's, as the other folks have mentioned, really, as a school board member, we're serving as your representative for the body that's working to provide for the education of the children in the community. That involves setting the broad goals and direction for the district. It involves establishing the budget and setting it up, which really the budget helps to put into action a lot of those goals and priorities. It's also providing that accountability and oversight for the school's administration with the superintendent and her staff. I think for board members, there's 3 characteristics that residents should be looking for. I think a board member needs to be open to hear the concerns from residents to be able to best represent them. I think they need to be good stewards of the funding that taxpayers are provided as part of that budget. And lastly, be able to use their best judgment for the issues that come before them. I believe that I've got the skills and experiences that can help in that matter. And as the others mentioned, it's helpful to have different views and having different members from the community with different backgrounds to be able to help the board come to what the best solution is in the best direction for our community.
Thank you, Eric. The next question, it relates to some comments some of you made in the last one regarding the superintendent. So the question is, the average tenure of a school superintendent is about 2 years. What is the board's role in the superintendent's success? And we'll start with Tammy on this one.
I think the superintendent really has kind of got the district kind of finances is kind of number one. So I think her familiarity with the budget and her support of the board to make sure that, you know, we give her the tools necessary to succeed is number one. I will mention that Dr. Julie Helber has been with us more than that. So we're all very excited by it. Nobody wants to look for a new superintendent, that's for sure. But I think just giving her the tools and being supportive and making sure that she can talk to us about things and we can evaluate kind of some metrics in, like, did I just see something pop up? Sorry. Some metrics as far as like scores and things like that, and just kind of giving her the tools necessary to succeed is the best thing we can do.
Thank you, Tammy. Dana?
This is a great question. This is very important, and we are very fortunate in our district to have Dr. Julie Helber. As I said, it was a very neat experience to be a part of that search and realize that we really have the best of the best. I think the most important thing that a board can do is spend a lot of time with our superintendent to develop a efficient and effective working relationship. You do this with open and honest communication. You ask questions, you give opinions, you share ideas and information with each other. And I think that you have a shared focus and a shared purpose so that we can come to consensus, or if we have different opinions, that we at least know about them up front. I think it's very important to just continue to work on this relationship, and the best way to do that is really just that communication piece, I believe.
Thank you, Dana. Eric?
I think for the board and the superintendent to work together and for the superintendent to be successful, I think the board's responsibility is to provide that superintendent with good, clear goals and direction for the district, and then provide her with the flexibility for her and her staff to put together a plan and then provide them with the resources to be able to meet those goals. Now, I truly believe that, as a board, you give those goals and be able to provide those resources, and with the superintendent coming up with the plan, you give her the flexibility to do it, put together the team that she needs to do it. But then at the end of the day, as board members are held accountable to the residents in the district, the board holds the superintendent accountable to meeting those goals. And I think that's fair. And I think the communication that Dana spoke with is a way to make sure that those goals get clearly communicated, and both the board and the superintendent or staff can work together to meeting those.
Thank you, Eric. And Mark?
Yes, I'd like to thank Dr. Halbert for her service of all these years. And when I spoke with her last month, she was very excited to continue doing this. She's passionate about her work. And I think we can help her with that passion and be communicative, but also critically think about the teachers she suggests for hiring, think about the facilities changes she wants to make, ask good questions, find out what's her motivation behind those. And I was really appreciative of her reaching out to me to get to know me first. And I think that open communication will facilitate the working, hand in hand with her. And again, we do want her to be successful. And if we can help out in more than just rubber stamping or okaying anybody that she puts forward, let's really think about it, dig in, and make suggestions and provide honest feedback for her. We think she's doing a wonderful job, and if there's places we think that she can grow. My conversation with her, she seemed very receptive to those types of conversations, and if elected, I do look forward to having the opportunity to work with her.
Thank you, Mark. Some of these questions were written by the Chamber Board, and some of these questions came in from the community. And we made an effort not to edit anything, so we're giving these to you just as they came into us. The next question, we'll start with Dana, it says students have rights under the law and per board policy. How would you work to preserve students' religious freedoms in the Chelsea schools? We'll start with Dana.
Well, that's a doozy of a question, but a good one. I think, again, our primary role as a board member is to support the mission of the school, which is to care about and treat all individuals equally and make sure that they're in a healthy and safe environment. I believe that this is not necessarily something specific that I can do as a board member, except for with policy and mission and shared goals with our district. And I guess that would be my role, is being a part of the action that takes place to help all students.
Thank you. And Eric?
I'll echo some of the comments Dana made. I think as a board, the main goal is to make sure that we're providing a safe and welcoming environment, to provide that environment so our students can learn. And whether that's a religious or other background, we need to be able to provide those educational opportunities to all of our students. I would hope that we don't have anything that's specifically going after particular creeds or religions. I haven't seen that. And as a board member, that's one thing we'd always want to be open to getting feedback from community members to hear where we may be falling short with our policies, with our goals. But overall, one of the first steps is having that safe and welcoming environment for our kids to learn.
Thank you, Eric. And Mark.
Yes, so as a public school, we can't sanction any particular religion or promote it. And if we allow some students the ability to use facilities or express their religious views as their personal views, I think we have to allow anybody of any religion to have those, that same chance to express their religious views. And in my opening statement, that was one of the things I mentioned was, even, where you worship or if you don't, I want to advocate for you. So I think it's religion can be a valuable part of a student's life. I go to Chelsea First Methodist, but I also know that that's just one body of believers and working to do good in our community, and that there are others out there that are different denominations or different religions. And as long as we let them all have equal access as what, the predominant religion in Chelsea for youth facilities or to express their religious views as a school board, I think we have to allow for that openness and for that diversity to be expressed.
Thank you, Mark. And Tammy.
Oh, it's hard being the last one because you just want to repeat what everyone's already said.
That's happening with a lot of these questions.
Sorry.
All right.
I'm going to kind of circle back to one of the main functions of the school board, and that's just providing for the safety and welfare of all students in Chelsea. I have been chair of the policy committee for many, many years now. And each student has certain protections, and we need to make sure that, we're giving them the opportunity to express themselves, however that may be. So, I would just say that if there's, something particular that somebody needs to address as far as religion or whatever, I would hope that they would feel that they could come and approach the board, and we could kind of work through some things to figure out what we need to do to make them feel safe and secure and make sure that they can express themselves.
Thank you. The next question is, it's one that I put in there because it is the giant elephant in the room. It's what everyone talks about every day, everywhere I go. And so starting with Eric, the question I have is, what do you think is going well with how the district has responded to COVID? And what, if anything, would you change and why?
Well, first, I'd like to thank, the current school board members and the past school board members, because when COVID hit, one thing that was clear is like the investments that were made by the board and the district in technology, like iPads for every student. That's been a godsend. I mean, it's given the district the flexibility to be able to do virtual education and to be able to respond to, the crazy circumstances that we're dealing with. I think all the teachers and the administration have worked hard to try to put together a plan to meet, the changing rules that come about as to how many people can be in a room and mask or no mask, or how we're delivering education. So I really commend all of them for, the work they've been trying to do in these uncertain times. And that's also where it is important with the board. They help to set really the conditions that not just meet today, but give the foundation for the future. And I think those investments in technology are ones that we should continue and sustain. I think there'll be opportunities that come out of all this mess in how we may be able to educate our students differently, be able to take advantage of online and distributed resources to be able to bring some other opportunities and capabilities for our district.
Thank you, Eric. And Mark?
Yes, thank you. So, wow, I didn't know what to expect coming into this school year. Last year, it was very abrupt. And I know teachers don't go into teaching to teach a class over Zoom. And I know they scrambled and worked really hard to adapt last year. And I didn't know what to expect this year. And I've been very, very pleased with my daughter's experience in kindergarten. I really appreciate the clear plan that the superintendent has presented. Here are the steps, here are the criteria to hit those steps in terms of data from the health department. Here is what that's going to look like and when it's going to happen for each school. I also very much appreciate the flexibility that's been offered. Every family is going to have different considerations coming into this. Our family, we have a few health concerns, and the ability to go fully virtual, while not ideal, it works for our family. And I know that there are other families that aren't in the situation that we are, that are healthy, or they're not able to have both parents working from home, or they have to get to a job at a certain time and have their kid go to school. So I've been very appreciative of how flexible the schools have been and how clear they've been about where we're at and where we're going to go from here and when. They've done a fantastic job. The teachers have been really terrific. Eric Robinson's presentation last night of all the work, or I'm sorry, Monday night, of all the work they had to do to get the teachers ready, and doing a year's worth of professional development in the course of just a couple of weeks to get ready for this year. Chelsea's done great with the technology and preparing the teachers for a really unfortunate situation.
Thank you, Mark. Tammy?
I think the things that we've done, I'll kind of piggyback off of what Eric said, just having the investments in technology over the last 10 years to give a one-on-one kind of ability for families has definitely made it beneficial for everyone to kind of deal with this. There are a lot of rural areas in Chelsea, and unfortunately there were a lot of families that didn't have the ability for Wi-Fi access. And we kind of went over and above, not only just putting some hotspots in some specific locations where we knew there was a need, but we also offered hotspots to the families individually as well, which helped them. And my understanding was it was unlimited. So I think that kind of has made it more successful. And I'm not gonna pretend that this is an easy thing by any means, but I think the administration and the district kind of did the best that they could. I think giving the parents and the families the ability to choose an all virtual or a hybrid or a combination has definitely kind of helped take some of the stressors off. So you could choose if you wanted to send your children to school or not. But I do think that some of these opportunities with these online classes and educational, like dual enrollment opportunities, is definitely kind of making it open up some eyes for families so they can kind of see that there are options out there, and there are even more course offerings than what we provide in Chelsea.
And Dana?
Thank you. Along with what everyone else is saying, I think I just want to focus on what's going well. In my opinion, what's going amazingly well is just the incredible people that are doing incredible things. And so my answer is people, and that goes for the task force itself, making the decisions and guiding. It goes for the administration and the staff putting forth all the efforts. It goes to the students and the families who are adapting as best they can. I think that another thing our school district has done really well is recognize that this is not a one size fits all kind of solution, and dealing with issues as they come. and handling them as best they can has been something that I've admired. What would I change about the situation isn't unchangeable. We wouldn't be here. We would be in schools having teachers with students and students with teachers. Unfortunately, that's out of all of our control in many ways, but I think something that the district can continue to do is advocate for our students to get us there safely when the time is right.
And thank you, everybody, for those thoughtful answers. And we've got another question, and we'll start with Mark on this one. This is another one that came from the community. Many community members have stated that bullying is a continuing issue in Chelsea schools. What changes would you recommend be made to make sure that bullying is addressed, stopped, and communicated to the community?
This has been one of the most difficult issues to learn about since announcing the candidacy. Heard too many stories of families, their experiences, and students speaking at school board meetings or at city council meetings and feeling like they haven't been heard by the adults who are supposed to look out for them. I think we need to get some data and really show people how much of a problem it is in Chelsea. We need to do some surveys. We need to find out, what's going on, what's the nature of the bullying. Be transparent about it with the community and say, these are the types of bullying issues that we're seeing, and not going into the specifics that would betray anybody's privacy. But, if we don't know what's going on, we can't do anything to address it. I think we need to have methods for students to report on behalf of other students. I think we need to have, work with the teachers to make sure that they intervene as necessary when these things arise. I was a target of bullying in middle school, and I didn't dare come forward. And thankfully, a teacher intervened and helped resolve the issue. And also looking at the kids who are doing the bullying, these guys, they're kids, they're still developing their brains, and it's not, we have to recognize the humanity in them, and we're not going to march them out of town with pitchforks and torches, but, help them understand the impact their actions had on their fellow students and on the family members. I do like the restorative justice model so that the target can express to the bully, how it impacted their lives. And I also think that the parents need to hear that as well, because ultimately they're the ones who, we can look to make sure that they take care of this at home as well.
Thank you, Mark. Tammy?
Bullying. So I will kind of address it as a board, I guess at a board level, just because I think most people think that the board is aware of every little thing that goes on in the district. And I can assure you that, in the 10 years that I've been on the school board, and I believe Dana's been on 6, I mean, anytime anyone has ever brought anything to the board, we have always addressed it at the board level. We do have a zero tolerance policy, but unfortunately, if we're not always aware when something happens and we can't point them in the right direction, it's not always an easy kind of answer. And I think sometimes the restorative kind of justice, having people sit down, doesn't always work in a bullying situation. And I think sometimes you have to have some severe consequences, and you have to take things away and make sure that there's some punishment. I do feel that we need to do better when it comes to having a tool that not only teachers or parents or students, but that they can report things anonymously and that they'll see that there's follow through. I think we could do better.
Thank you, Tammy. Dana?
Well, that's a good way to segue into, I think we can always do better. There's always room for improvement. That's a heartbreaking question, actually, because all of us, I'm sure, as well as everyone in our schools, care deeply about our kids. And again, this goes back to not being a one-size-fits-all. I believe in the zero tolerance policy. I believe in the restorative justice. I believe that we trust our teachers and our administrators and our students to help promote the culture that's important to us as a school board and as a district and as a community. and we have to work together, and we have to be willing to admit that there's areas of improvement. We also have to realize that we don't necessarily always have the answers, but that we should seek them, and we should try and try and try again. So I don't have a one-size-fits-all answer for that question because each instance is different. But I do believe in following the chain of command. And I do believe that there's an order in which things need to be reported. And when it gets to the board, like Tammy says, sometimes we don't know about them. There are many of the cases of experiences our students have in our schools, and not all of them are bad. Some of them are extremely wonderful. We don't hear every story. But when it gets to the board, we can point people in the right direction. Otherwise, there's other people in our district that are willing to help.
Thank you, Dana. And Eric?
I think we all mentioned that really the first priority for the school board and the district is to provide a safe environment for the students. So, if a student's scared for their safety, they're not able to learn. Now, there's only so much that can be done because a lot of these activities happen outside of the schools, happen at home. But, we can focus on where we are responsible for in the schools. And I believe, like Mark said, having the data, having the ability for parents and students to be able to, report these actions, that's how we can try to address them and make things better, as both Dana and Tammy mentioned. And then in terms of addressing the ones that are perpetrating the bullying, we have a responsibility of, educating them and preparing them to be productive members of society as well. They're children. Kids do stupid things, and there's an opportunity for them to learn from them. But still, at our core responsibility is to provide a safe environment for all of our students. And we have to keep that first and foremost when we're putting together policies and as a board overseeing the activities of the administration to make sure that incidents that are being reported, that are happening, are being addressed and taken care of.
Thank you, Eric. All right, the next question, question 7. This comes from the community. And we'd like to start with you, Tammy. Do you agree that racism in all forms should be stopped? And if so, what is your opinion about the fact that the Confederate flag is allowed on student clothing? I'm reading the question.
Okay. Of course, any form of racism should not be allowed. I think a lot of times there are symbols in our history that people, for whatever reason, and I'm not saying that they're right, but they feel some attachment to. And I guess I didn't realize that they could wear Confederate clothing in the district, honestly. But where do you draw the line? I mean, I think a lot of times there's so many different things that, I mean, during this election, for instance, there are things that come up and, supporting the police or, or standing behind a certain union or whatever seems to give you a title. And I mean, clearly, I never felt that there was a racism problem, Chelsea. And I guess from a board standpoint, maybe that's something we should look at as far as policy handbooks at each of the school, clothing kind of guideline, but I'm not aware of that. I apologize.
Thank you, Tammy. Dana?
Could you repeat the question for me, Paul, please?
Yeah, the question is, do you agree that racism in all forms should be stopped? And if so, what is your opinion about the fact that the Confederate flag is allowed on student clothing?
I do believe that racism in all forms should be stopped. I, as an individual, like Tammy, didn't even know our policy on Confederate clothing. And I would have to look into it just like all the hundreds of other policies that sometimes I have to reference. I would be very interested in hearing the students' perspective on that. I would be equally interested in hearing the community's perspective on that. As an individual, which is not as a board, but as an individual, I don't feel like I have the right to tell someone necessarily what to wear, but I do not feel that Confederate flags should be worn on their clothing. I don't know why. That's just my personal opinion. And as a board member, I would be more interested in what everybody else felt about this topic.
Thank you, Dana. Eric?
Well, I think absolutely racism shouldn't be perpetrated in our schools. We're there to provide, as I sound like a broken record, a safe and welcoming environment for all of our students, regardless of their race, creed, religion, etc. That's what the school board should be focused upon. We should be focused upon putting in the policies to help these students learn and model the correct behavior, and to be respectful of others' beliefs and others' backgrounds. When it comes to specific articles of clothing and things like that, I know there might be some laws and other things that reflect freedom of speech and so forth, but really I think it comes down to how do we make sure that we have a community and we're fostering an environment in our schools where the right behavior is being modeled for all of our students.
Thank you, Eric. And Mark?
Let me state unequivocally that racism is wrong and we do need to work to stop it. And unfortunately, it is present in our schools. I've heard stories from parents and grandparents with students being harassed and intimidated. I understand for some people that the Confederate flag might represent being proud of a Southern heritage of college football and NASCAR and chicken and waffles. I lived in Virginia for a number of years, but I also think we need to help our students look at the bigger context of it. Yes, maybe that's where it fits for you, but for a lot of people, it's a symbol of intimidation. It's a symbol of slavery, of valuing certain people in our country less because their skin color is different. Our school vision, the Chelsea School District will foster students to be globally and culturally conscious. And I think this could be a time where we could educate them that, hey, culturally, maybe this is what the flag means for you, but the bigger picture is for a lot of people, it means a lot more than that. And I as well am surprised that it is allowed to be worn in school. I know that we do limit, students aren't allowed to wear whatever they want. There is a handbook that does prohibit certain items. Also, again, going back to providing an environment where students can feel safe. I can understand where a student of color might not feel safe in our schools if other students are allowed to wear a symbol of oppression like the Confederate flag on their clothing. And I would love to work to that removed from being allowed in our clothing in our schools.
Thank you, Mark. We're going to have time for one more of these questions because I want to save time at the end to give each of you an opportunity to a 2-minute closing statement. So we're going to do one more of these questions before we get there. And question number 8, we're going to start with Dana. Effective communication is a critical leadership skill. How do you plan to communicate to your constituents, especially those whose opinions and positions differ from your own? And we'll start with Dana on that.
Wonderful question. It's something that I've been on the board now for 6 years, and I'm still trying to figure out the best way to do this. Luckily, there's 7 people on the board, and we all communicate with different groups, and some of them overlap and some of them don't. I want to continue to be approachable. I try to attend as many events as I can. My Right now, I'm currently a school board liaison for Beach Middle School, so I interact with that administration and the staff more frequently than some of the other schools, but the people within that school building certainly have my phone number and email. It's on the website for our school board. I'm always reachable to anyone. I don't have a social media presence. I have learned over time that as one member of the board, it's a little too difficult for me to figure out how to just be a representative of my individual opinions and not the board's opinions on social media. But I feel that in-person, email, phone communication are often best for me. I am always looking for avenues that are better for others to reach me. So I'm open to suggestions.
Thank you, Dana. Eric?
Yeah, to echo some of what Dana said, I think I'd work to be open to be able to hear concerns from residents in the community. This year's been challenging because in-person communication has been somewhat limited. So, it's working to make do with the tools that we have to hear what's going on because there's a lot that can go on, and it's imperative that each of the board members are open to hearing those concerns from as their representative of the community. I would just be making myself available to hear from parents and students and teachers what they see occurring, where we can do better, where we can improve, and where we can sustain what's working well in our schools.
Thank you, Eric. And Mark?
As a school board members they represent the entire Chelsea community, not any particular contingency or faction of that. And I love that idea. As I stated earlier, I do welcome a diversity of opinions. I have friends and family of, all shades of the political spectrum. And I think being able to talk and listen to the community members is very important. I try anytime somebody's asked for an interview or some, or information we publish in a newspaper, I've welcomed every chance. I want to talk to as many people as possible. And sometimes the venues might be a little bit small, but I feel like especially as a writing candidate, I really need to be everywhere I can, talking to as many people. And I'd like to be out in the community. I live downtown, so it's I do get out to our local businesses, talk to a lot of neighbors in our community. We have church that we attend, a lot of people there that I talk to. Being involved with schools, I have a kindergartner, so I'll be involved with teachers. I have friends who are teachers at the high school. And it's about being a board or being in a position of leadership. It's not about waiting for people to come to you necessarily. You have to be open to that. But I look to be proactive in communication and reach out to others and learn that way.
Thank you, Mark. Well, that was really interesting and helpful. Got ahead of myself, Tammy. Sorry about that. We would certainly like to hear your answer to that last question. We're just running short on time, and I'm trying to make all this work.
I'll make it kind of quick. As far as effective communication, I tend to have a very active school board Facebook page. And I know when I started that, there was some concern on the district level of people in the community thinking that I was the voice of the board. And I tried to really kind of make sure that my posts kind of stuck to kind of factual kind of things like posting agenda items. I am also kind of very visible in the community. I attend events. Even just a couple of weeks ago, I was at a middle school cross-country meet just to kind of run into some people. I'm the school board liaison to the high school. And then I also am the chair or the committee chair of the student liaison to the school board. So I feel like all of us kind of do a good job at trying to be out in the community and talk to different facets of people to kind of get a gauge of what's working, what's not. And I think honestly, I'm sure Dana's the same because we always talk about it. I mean, we're constantly getting messages, emails, texts, phone calls. People feel that we're very approachable, and I like kind of having that gauge on, you know, what's working and what's not. When parents are frustrated with, you know, hot spots, you know, I can, you know, call Scott and say, you know, what can we do? You know, is there any other options for this family? So I'll kind of leave it at that, just because, you know, I'm the fourth. And
I appreciate it, and I apologize for almost
Okay.
skipping you on that. So, you know, we come to the end of the main questions, and I want to give each of the candidates 2 minutes now to make a closing statement. And then, of course, I'm going to yak just a little bit more after that to close this down. But we're going to start in the reverse order of the first question. So we'll go Dana, Tammy, Mark, and then Eric. You have 2 minutes.
I realized that in my initial comment, I forgot to mention that my kids are no longer young, and I'm no longer on the PTO where I mentioned that I was so involved. They evolved and grew, and now I have 3 fabulous high schoolers, a sophomore, junior, and senior. I also have a Chelsea graduate who is now a sophomore attending college. And I just wanted to put that in because that just is another component of who I am, just like someone that's important to have someone on the board with young children or someone with none. So that's who I am. I hope that I'm given the opportunity to continue to serve this wonderful school district, to help it keep improving, to help it continue to be amazing, and to support and cheer and advocate for all of the people who make it amazing and incredible. I value everyone, and I'm full of gratitude for the people within our district. And I just really enjoy being a part of that. 6 years, I've attended all the 100 level CBA courses. So I'm a certified board member, but there's so much more to learn, and there's so much more to do. So thank you for this time.
Thank you, Dana. And now Tammy.
In closing, I'd like to add that in addition to my responsibilities to following through with the bond issues, including technology improvements, infrastructure improvements, securing access points and entries throughout the district, as well as classroom improvements, I also want to make sure that I continue with the providing the quality education for all students. In this nonpartisan role, I bring to the Chelsea School District a strong sense of commitment and responsibility to follow through on important issues currently on the table, coupled with the desire to serve Chelsea School Districts, the Chelsea School District in its entirety. This includes staff, parents, students. I offer a willingness to listen, a genuine compassion for those I serve, and a promise to lend a fair and impartial voice, all the while making the necessary and sometimes difficult decisions that encompass the role of the school board member, decisions that will impact upon the betterment of our school district and future education of our students for years to come. Circling back to the racism question, I aim to discourage racism, bias, and all forms of discrimination, if I wasn't clear.
Thank you, Tammy. And Mark?
I'd like to thank the Chamber for hosting, Paul for moderating, and Scott for providing technical support. I also thank Tammy and Dana for serving on the school board. I'd also like to thank the other board members, the teachers, the school staff, Superintendent Helber, for your service to our community. I know it's not an easy job and probably not always the most appreciated. So thank you for your hard work. Our schools are wonderful places. Like I said, it's one of the draws for us to come to Chelsea. And I want to make sure that they're a wonderful place for all students. I value diversity of cultures, of socioeconomic status, of race has enriched my life. And I want to make sure that our students have the opportunity to have their lives enriched in the same way. I want them to feel safe at our schools, regardless of what they look like or who they love, if they're an athlete or not. And I also want to make sure that we do really seriously measure what's going on bullying wise and take action to address it. And it's very important to be transparent with the community about what we do learn and what steps we plan to take. Again, thank you for having us this evening, and thanks.
Thank you, Mark. And Eric?
Yes, thank you for hosting this again. For all the attendees, thank you for joining in and working to learn more about myself, the other candidates that are running. You know, if you still have more questions, I believe we all have websites or Facebook pages where you can go and find out more information about us. Probably answered other questions that we didn't get to tonight. That way you can make an informed choice this election. I hope that I get the opportunity to earn your vote to serve as the representative on the school board. If I'm elected, I promise that I'll be open to hear your concerns, hear the needs for your kids, other kids in the community, just generally hear where you see we're doing well, where we can do better, so that we continue to have and provide a good education for our children. Second, I'll be a good steward of the taxpayer funds that you provide so that we can put it to the best and highest use for our kids' education. And lastly, I'll come prepared to the board meetings and for the issues at hand, so I can use my best judgment to address the issues and the decisions that need to be made. I hope that I can earn your vote this year, and I can work with you and the board to help make Chelsea continue to be a great place to get an education. Thank you.
Thank you, Eric. Thank you to all the candidates. So in closing, I would like to once again thank you to all the candidates for being willing to serve in this role on the Chelsea School Board. It's a job for skilled, thoughtful people who care about offering a quality public education to the students, their families, and the community they serve. Once again, also thanks to those of you who took the time to log in and attend this meeting tonight. A reminder, it has been recorded and you can watch that on chelseamish.com. Finally, this is from me. I would say this: it is a good fortune of everyone here that we live in a free society where each adult citizen has the right, and I personally would say, the duty to participate in our democratic processes. Please consider what you have seen and heard here this evening. Review information about this in other local news outlets, and I urge you to vote for the candidates of your choice using the voting process that meets your needs. Good evening, good health to you all, and thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.